You know, I originally had an intro for this all written out, scripted, and even animated, but then I decided I didn't like it. But all you really need to know is, I really appreciate Storytime animators, and I not only want to draw myself in their styles, I want to make it more like a gift since holiday spirit was in the air that day, and well, I hope you'll like it. Nothing like starting things off with the edgiest creator in the entire list, am I right, fellas? No, but in all seriousness, I love Tabs. I really do. She's my second favorite animator out of them all. I love the sophisticated bluntness of her general style and presentation, and how, even if you might initially get the impression that she's not the friendliest or warmest of people, I get the feeling, and this is based off what I've seen in her videos and how other people have mentioned her, I get the feeling she's a lot nicer than she gets credit for. Or maybe in less, I guess, embarrassing terms, I feel as if she's a good person. I really do. And honestly, there's a lot of people out there you might know that may seem blunt and cold at first, but are a lot kinder than you'd expect. I live in the East Coast, so I'm pretty used to people like that. But beyond that, I can also relate, because, well, in being mute for 3 years, she was, well, quiet for 3 years, as she said, because of some stuff going on at home, basically. And you know what? That's actually strikingly similar to something I went through in 5th to around 8th grade. Even down to, like, family issues, even though I don't know what hers were. Mine's were also a little different. Mine also, well, I'll say it now, I've usually felt, for the longest time, a lot of struggle with feeling I belong somewhere, or I fit in somewhere, and even if I do, that I matter somewhere. Not to mention, I unknowingly had general anxiety issues at the time. And, well, it's hard to find people in life that you trust when you aren't really the greatest of talkers. That skill wasn't taught to me as a kid, you know. Granted, I do need to elaborate that it is a lot better now. In fact, even though I still sometimes feel those struggles at home with my mom and my dad, my overall family outside of that, from just the moments I've gotten to interact with them, they've been very understanding and accepting of who I am, basically. But I also love Tabs because one of the reasons I sometimes get disappointed with how my videos perform currently is, well, I get a little worried that one of the reasons they underperform, you could say, is because maybe people don't like how I sound. Then, when I get like that, sometimes it's helpful to remember Tabs, and even if she gets some, judgment and dislike as you normally would, it's because she is who she is and she sounds how she sounds that people, well, love her exactly for those reasons. Not everyone will like you, but that's fine. People will like you because you're you, and that's what matters, I guess. I like it, in fact. It's one of the things that I think about, and I just feel a lot less worried overall. And I just really appreciate that about her content. And man, I haven't even mentioned the art style, but it's a lot like how I've described her personality. A sophisticated sort of bluntness, and I like that. I like talkies too, so I'm gonna include those. But yeah, I'm really not sure what to say after that. I just really appreciate what Tabs does. And, well, I hope to see more of her in the future. So there's this pretty tiny, small, underground, underrated channel out there that I doubt you've heard of. She's pretty niche. She's called Jaiden Animations, and, she only has like 11 million subscribers. That's like not nearly enough recognition. Anyways, I gotta ask, where would any of us be without Jaiden? Where would I be if Jaiden didn't start out her channel? If it wasn't for her and James, well, I really doubt Storytime Animation would have kicked off in the way it has. Those two popularized it, and there's a very good reason that even today they are still probably the two biggest inspirations in the entire community. Before I was also doing Storytime Animations myself, about a year ago I actually even got a comment saying, "You kind of remind me of Jaiden, like your general style, how you speak, and your personality." And you know what? I found that really, really, well, flattering. In fact, I still do today. It's one of the ones I still think about. But yeah, even if I haven't watched as much of her stuff as I could have, Jaiden is beloved for a reason, no doubt about it. Like, for one, I'm really not sure what exactly it is, but something about the way she tells her stories is just extraordinarily easy to relate to, connect with, and listen to. Maybe she has good scriptwriters. And two, her style is just really cute. It's also fun to draw, even for someone like me. The old one especially, because it has that nice, homemade, nostalgic feel to it. But even with that said, I also ended up really liking the modern one too, just because, well, I'm not sure. I just liked it a lot more than I expected. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying this, but looking at the end result and just how it looks makes me really happy in a way. It just gives off these nice, warm, wholesome, good vibes and just makes me want to smile. I'm not sure what it is, but it is very cute. I'd love if my style could give off similar vibes too. For the top one, I even brought back my old design just to match up with anime Jaiden. Swords are very cool, as we all know. And two, I always liked the fan videos of basically if there was a fighting game like Smash Brothers, but with all of the Storytime animators as playable characters instead of Smash Bros characters or Nintendo characters. Usually they're made by Rising J, and I'd love to be included in one of them as just like maybe a DLC fighter or whatever. But I know I have to build my channel up to that point to actually be worthy of getting included. Like, damn, I wish my first 6 months were as successful as Jaiden's. But then again, one, I do tend to overrate my stuff a bit. Like, when I made my midnight video, I was thinking, damn, this shit fire, and when I look at it now, I just think, Chief, are you sure this was it? Like, it's not completely bad by any means, but I just have this overwhelming sense in me to make it much better. And hey, who knows? One day I'd love to get to a level where not only I'd be someone worthy of being included in one of those Smash Bros videos, but I make something on the level of Jaiden, but with my own sort of nuance and depth to the equation. And no matter what that is, you can be very sure I will look to Jaiden for inspiration. Believe it or not, we're not actually done with Jaiden's art style technically, because if I recall correctly, Bryson has gone on record saying, yeah, my art style is pretty heavily based off Jaiden's. And you know, if you look at it, you can certainly see that. But you can also see some of the differences between them. One of the differences I noticed when I looked at it is Bryson probably uses the circle tool for drawing his heads, while Jaiden probably freehands it. Them and all their supporting artists. Not only that, the lines are much thicker with Bryson's. You know, damn boy, he thick. But besides that, it's because of those I felt, yeah, this would be a lot more fun to draw. I don't have to worry as much about the rigidity or getting it as consistently down. I can just move it around more in the ways I'd like, and the thickness of the lines help cover that. I love that. I love the colors. I just love it, you know? And while I'm still on the topic, can you citizens of the comment section confirm or deny this theory I have in my head, but I feel a big chunk of the appeal with Storytime Animations is not just in the character designs, just being your everyday, ordinary, average Joe, but also that their art style could be drawn by your everyday, average Joe. As in, it's very accessible, very easy to draw, and very simple. When both of those go together, it creates a little more of a relatable, comfortable feeling, and I feel that may be why people not only prefer the general style of the old Odd Ones Out, but also the general art style as well, compared to the newer, more fancy and, yes, quote-unquote, real animation of the new ones. I added in quotes just because there was some stupid drama about animation versus animatics. To me, that shit's just potato versus potato. But that's a theory I've had in my head, and I'd love to know if you actually feel that or not. But besides art style, I also have to give compliment where it's due to the growth this boy has been experiencing the past year. In 2021, he had about 2 million subscribers in. 2 years later, he's about 5.5 million subscribers there. And if you ask me, at the rate he's going, give him about 5 years and he'll catch up to James, if not exceed him. And not only is that well deserved for both him and his team so they can rake in that dough and such, it's also motivating to me because whenever people like to say, oh, Storytime is dead, or at the very least, the big boom of animators coming in and rising up is gone, and joining would be a little bit late and difficult, which it has been in my case. I think about Bryson, and I think about the growth and just the general excitement a lot of his community still feels, even if granted they are a lot younger than mine, for example. I think of that and just how far he's come, and it motivates me and keeps me hopeful for my own growth in the future. But not just mine, also a lot of other people like my good friend Dragon, because, hey, who knows? 5 years' time, you might see another big animation boom going to happen. And personally, I think the space needs some new faces, fresh perspectives, and all that jazz. And it'd be nice, especially in this era of YouTube, to have more content where you can actually connect to the creator rather than just scroll on by like a shorts feed or a TikTok or whatever the fuck. Bryson? I must say, out of everyone I've drawn so far, your art style has been very, very, very fun, and you have certainly evolved it a long way from where it started. Congrats to you and everyone too on all the success. And hey, I loved how this turned out. I sadly don't have as much to say about Kelsey as I would anybody else. In fact, without her, this video probably would not exist. Mainly just cause, well, borrowing your video ideas is usually pretty important, and like, if I'm going to borrow her video ideas, I feel as if I should include her, just as a way to give thanks. I don't want to be all like, hey, may I borrow your phone? Oh yeah, sure. Thanks, I'll give it back as soon as I'm done. And then I proceed to never fucking give it back. I don't want to be like that. Granted, I exaggerated it for the lulz, but you get the gist. When I was drawing the rough sketches for how I'd pose everyone in my notebook, by the way, Kelsey's style was also the one that intimidated me the most, and lo and behold, also gave me the most trouble at first. And I'm not sure why. Though I personally think it's because a lot of it is a combination of sharp and circular or smooth lines, and I can see how that could create a little bit of dissonance overall. Not that that is a bad thing, mind you, because the beauty of art and art styles is you're allowed to make a style as complex or as simple as you would like, because each person's style speaks to the individual, I personally believe. And there's something very beautiful about that. Not to mention, my main goals with this are just looking for how I can simplify my art style. And currently one of the ways I think I should do that is rounding out more of my sharp corners. Mainly just my face, just because with a chin you have to draw so many different angles if you want those complex poses. But a circle, Well, it's always a circle no matter what angle you look at it. Unless you draw an oval, in which case you should be careful of sea bears, but that's besides the point. Something else I struggled with during this was, well, I had zero clue for how I should pose this whatsoever. But having zero clue and considering that it is Kelsey we're talking about, well, I think that's appropriate. Sorry if you're watching, by the way, I'm just throwing casual shade, even if you don't, know me or anything. Your art styles, even when they have been changed over the years, have all been very stylish and, dare I say, cute. Even though I've said cute about 3 times in this video, you could give me a lie detector test and it would say, no lies detected. Sometimes I think you're pretty funny as well. Sometimes. Like I said, she doesn't know me, so for clarity's sakes, just remember that what everybody finds funny is very subjective to the individual, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I've gone back and forth with how I should frame this in my script notes, so here it is. As someone who grew up online but also let the internet ruin a lot of their own mental health and ability to empathize with people for the longest time, nowadays, I really don't vibe with it very much when somebody's personality is more internet culture based and internet culture focused, or for lack of a better term, online. And mind you, that is nothing personal against Kelsey herself. This is just how I feel, basically. The internet doesn't really represent reality, and a lot of things get blown way out of proportion, both because, well, the internet is not how we evolved to communicate, and a lot of our emotions get exploited, the most exploitable of which being fear, by the way. And social media is driven on engagement and monetization of such. They will want to keep you on the platform for as long as possible, and inadvertently, you may end up seeing some of the most controversial stuff that otherwise normally wouldn't be representative of real life. But if it wasn't engaging, then it wouldn't be shown. So what ends up happening is it amplifies the extreme, whether that be when a horrible tragedy happens, or, well, I can't think of anything else. It's usually just when a horrible tragedy happens, and somebody is very inconsiderate to their fellow human being. So that's why I think I don't really like it anymore when things get too internet culture focused. It's just for health reasons, basically. And to clarify, there's nothing wrong with just having a little funny or a chuckle or whatever every now and then for something internet related like a meme. In fact, if you find it funny, more power to you. It goes back to what I said before. Everyone's humor is subjective. And moving off this conversation very elegantly, while I was intimidated by her art style, ultimately, I think it came out pretty well. The drawing process was a lot easier than I expected when I actually got around to doing it on Krita. And one of the defining features is the very bold but balanced colors. I'd say I captured those to a fair enough extent. And Kelsey, I hope you like this. I don't believe I've told any of you all yet, but in case you didn't know, Shgurr is actually the biggest reason I am doing Storytime Animation. My biggest inspiration, and, if you couldn't tell from that praise, my favorite animator out of the bunch. Out of the whole bunch, in fact. Like, beyond this video. It all started when I was still starting out my channel, and I wanted to talk about more matters that spoke to the heart, spoke to the soul, and gave me an opportunity to speak about more of the things I've carried with me through a lot of my life, but never really had the opportunity to express. And about as much opportunity to find other people who have gone through similar. So then I discover Shgurr, and the fact that she's lived such a hard life. You know that? She really has. We may not have lived the exact same life, but man, it was really, really rough from the sounds of it. I know one thing with stuff that's deep cutting and really gets to you when it's painful. Even when you're out of it, sometimes you can still feel some lasting effects from it. I'm just speaking from personal experience on that matter. Even still, healing is not an easy process and can't be rushed, but healing, even when it's slow, is still at the end of the day healing. Healing is healing, no matter what speed it's going at. But I watched those videos and I got a sort of assurance that I am not, in fact, the only person in the world who has struggled to that extent. I am not the only person in the world who has felt similarly. And I am not the only person in the world just struggling in general. I take comfort in that. And not just that, I also got a sense that this is the kind of content I should be making at my best, or when I'm up to the task. This is the kind of stuff that could really touch the soul just as I always wanted to. This is the stuff that could really help people, you know? And that's when I really started to see the value in Storytime Animation, and I always believe that part of the beauty of it is the freedom to really get personal and just talk about you. It's not too dissimilar from real life. It feels just like hearing the story of somebody you have the opportunity to talk with. Sometimes that can be about Subway or retail, and sometimes that can be about some of the more personal aspects. But at the end of the day, it's all an expression of the individual, and I find that beautiful. Even when I was doing gaming content, my end game or end goal was always, I should do Storytime animation. And now I'm doing that. Granted, I feel I could be better, but I'm still working on it. I will note though that those videos which spoke to me are unlisted, and for a good reason. As a rule of thumb, you should only really share what you truly feel comfortable with, even after, say, a lot of time has passed. And so those are unlisted. But if you are still interested, you can in fact view them because they are up on her channel, and she has a dedicated public playlist for you if you feel so inclined. Even besides that, I just really like her stuff. It's very pleasant and nice to listen to. And beyond those, I just really, really like her style. It's very, I'm going to use this word again, cute. But more than that, it's also just, they just have this solid feeling to how they're built. But still, it also just makes me happy to look at it. I really like it. I really, really do. And Shgurr, I hope I did your style justice, since I drew this the day I had a pretty persistent headache, so I may have gotten a few things wrong. But yeah, I have a lot to thank for Shgurr. Shgurr, whatever you decide to do next, wherever you decide to go, and all that kind of jazz, I'll not only be happy to listen to whatever you decide to put out, I also really hope you just live your best life in general, as they say. You deserve to live a great life, as does everyone. You especially. Thanks again for everything, and thanks for inspiring me. And with that all said, here's one more look at all the finished pieces. I wanted to finish these all before Christmas, but December was a lot more stressful than I anticipated. And besides, New Year's also works as well. Anyone can celebrate New Year's if they're excited enough. Tabs may have that video about failing New Year's resolutions, but the ones I have for myself I feel I could actually realistically achieve, like maybe get 500,000 subscribers, maybe 10,000 if we're fortunate enough. Of course, maybe get monetized so I can finally feed the fam. If not, I could also open commissions for the first time. I definitely want to improve on my videos and, well, get more comfortable in camera. You know, let out the soul in SoulNight. Not to mention, I hope you'll stick around and, you know, give me and my content a chance. It's not the best right now, but it is what it is. Definitely let me know if you want a part 2, by the way. And yeah, I hope you have a fantastic 2024. Good night.